Now that we have an outline of topics to cover in this training, we're now going to make a lesson plan that defines the modules, lesson activities, and delivery methods for this training. And we're going to ensure that the learning experience is engaging, efficient, and measurable. The really critical input documents that we're going to need that we've already created in previous phases is our topics outline and our design document. Next, we have a short form that will allow us to provide additional information to the AI prompt and trigger the workflow. Then N8N is going to orchestrate the construction of a lesson plan by taking the topics of your outline and merging them with the instructional methods and modalities in your design document using the predefined database of organizationally defined training terms. All of this is output inside of Notion, where you're going to be able to review, organize, and modify your lesson plan before sending that out to stakeholder approval. Your output of this phase is the lesson plan, which is a detailed roadmap of modules, submodules, activities, timing it takes for participants to complete these activities, and the sequencing of the training. It's this part of the workflow where everything really comes together, so let's go see what that looks like. At this point in our workflow, we have created a workspace for our project, set all of the project parameters. We have a project details page, analysis, design, and a topics outline. The next thing that we need to do is work on our lesson plan. So to do that, I'm going to go into our topics outline, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this link here to create a lesson plan. Here you can see that this create a lesson form already has some fields pre-filled for us, and that is the project ID, the design document ID, and the outline ID. These are the primary inputs that's going to provide the AI all that's needed to create our lesson plan. This field here gives you the opportunity to provide additional instructions to the AI when creating your lesson plan. These instructions may be something that's not covered in any of these documents, or as you iterate on your lesson plan, you may use this field to redirect some of the AI behavior to give you a more desirable output. This last field here is for adding some notes as you're iterating through your lesson plan. You may have noticed that there are not as many fields with this form as there have been with other forms that we've used, and that's because all the information we need is already in these documents to create our lesson plan. You might be wondering, where is the human in the loop step on this? The lesson plan phase is actually broken down into a couple of sub-steps where you're going to be able to influence the AI and review the content generated at each sub-step. I'm actually only going to give the submission a name and put in a short log note. I'm not going to add any additional instructions at this time because I want to see what the AI is going to generate already based on the inputs. So let's go ahead and submit that. As with all other workflows, the submission of the form triggers the automation, so let's see what's happening as a result in Notion. Here inside our project workspace in Notion, I'm going to just scroll down here to our lesson plan. This is where it's going to generate our modules and submodules as our first step. So I'm going to go ahead and expand this so that we can see it do its thing. You can see here the AI automation using logic to build modules and submodules based on the input documents we've created for this workflow. For each item the automation creates, it also creates a description of what the objective is for that module or submodule. It first creates the items, then places the submodules under their respective modules. Now with that complete, we have the opportunity to review these modules and submodules with their descriptions. This is a really critical human-in-the-loop step, and really the best way of guiding the AI generative process, because these modules and submodules will be fed back into the workflow. In the next step, the automation will be generating activities under these modules and submodules, so the better you refine your lesson plan at this stage, the better results that you're going to get from the generative AI. So now that I'm looking at this lesson plan, I can see that this one here, the submodule, is the only one that I would eliminate. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that Everything else seems good to me, and I'm ready for the AI to generate my activities. So to do this, I need to go back into our project workspace, and I'm going to expand these options here. And there is a new link here called Lesson Plan. I'm going to click on that. Now this is going to bring up our form submission that we made in NoCodeDB. If you're not liking the result that the AI gave us for the modules and submodules, then we could go back into Notion, delete all those modules and submodules, and then provide some additional instructions to the AI here in this input field, saved it, and then clicked on the Create Modules and Submodules button, and it would regenerate that for us. If you like the initial output and have made your changes and you're ready to move on to the next step, all you need to do is click on the button inside of NoCodeDB labeled Create Activities. This is going to trigger the workflow to access the training requirements outlined in the project, like the type of training, the learning modalities, the content creation standard, the duration of the training, and other requirements, which are going to guide the AI in creating all of the activities under these modules and submodules. So let's go ahead and click the Create Activities button and see what happens inside of Notion. Here you can see the automation workflow is building our activities. It's giving these activities descriptions, assigning them a learning modality, and the time it thinks for the learners to complete the activity. There's two types of activities that are getting created here: learning activities and accountability activities. The accountability activities are assigned to the training objectives that we established earlier and will result in some kind of assessment score for the participants. There is a place in Notion where we can work out the weighted scoring for all these activities. All right, so now that that workflow has completed, let's take a look at what it's generated. So this first module here that I reviewed and approved is called Know Your Purpose. Let's take a look at the submodule right under there called Embrace Who You Are. The first activity is called Discuss Personal Values. The modality on this activity is formal, and if we take a look at the description, it says learners reflect on and discuss their core personal values and how these can contribute to their workplace roles. This is a learning activity, and the AI says it's going to be about 30 minutes to complete. The next activity is called Personal Values Presentation. It's an experiential modality, and let's take a look at the description. It says learners prepare and present a short presentation on their personal values and expected contributions to team success. This is an accountability activity, and it's going to be about 45 minutes to complete. That actually seems like a pretty solid first submodule. When writing the outline, I never thought about the participants preparing a presentation themselves, and that seems like a pretty good idea. However, I need to make sure that the facilitator has time in the training for the participants to prepare something like this. Maybe I need to tweak this so that participants are writing their own personal mission statements, and if that's the case, then I think I can take 20 minutes off of this activity. I hope that example gives you an idea of how to engage with and modify the AI-generated activities. So let's take a look really quick before we end here and look at the agreeableness versus disagreeableness submodule and look at the activities there. The first one is a role play activity, Finding the Balance. That is a social modality, and the description says, learners participate in role play scenarios to practice balancing agreeableness and disagreeableness in team interactions. It's a learning activity, and it's going to take about 35 minutes. The next one is Balance Analysis Reflection. That is a reflection modality, and the description says learners reflect on their role play performance to identify strengths and improve areas in maintaining balance. That's an accountability activity, and it takes about 40 minutes to complete. In this process, you're going to be tweaking, adding, deleting, and rearranging these activities, and maybe moving around these modules and submodules that you reviewed earlier. And that's totally okay. This is the place to build out your lesson plan. Once you've completed this process, then you're going to move to the next step of generating tasks that you would need to build out this training. That's going to eventually be ported into our project management application. With a lesson plan built, we can now move to the last phase of our ADDIE automation workflow to start scheduling and building this training project.